Hi, and welcome to the It's Just Business podcast with myself, Richard Price. In this podcast, I interview some of the best business minds and entrepreneurs, diving deep into their business journey to get those valuable business lessons they have learned for entrepreneurs like you to succeed on your business journey. So listen up, listen in, let's begin. Hi, everyone. Welcome to It's Just Business podcast. Today, I am joined by Matthew Cortland. He is the co-founder of the Cauldron, and he's come here to share his story with you all. So, hey, Matthew, welcome.
Hey, Richard. Thanks for having me.
No, of course. So let's just kick this off straight away. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and what the Cauldron actually does?
Sure. So about me, I'm a former teacher that went to work in technology and had the idea to bring fantasy to life for people in a real and genuine way through interactive experiences. And so I moved to the UK to set up my business in 2017 and met my business partner and have been going ever since. And we opened up our first venue in 2018, which is an immersive interactive bar and restaurant that allows customers to bring magic to life with a working magic wand that acts as a control device for their entire guest experience, doing everything from pouring pints of beer and tracking their spending, to ordering food with their wand, to mixing drinks and cocktails. And, it blends kind of molecular mixology and science with IoT technology.
Wow. Okay, nice. So let me get it straight. You're waving magic wands to get what you want.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
It sounds too good to be true. So, I mean, put yourself back 5 years ago. Is this something that you imagined? Have you always had this drive to be an entrepreneur, or how did this come about?
Yeah, so 5 years ago, I was living in Dublin, Ireland, and I was working at a technology startup with one of Ireland's top technology entrepreneurs. His name is Sean Blanchfield. And to your question, yes, I was kind of obsessed with entrepreneurship and wanting to own my own business for quite a while. And I had been working at the company I was at previous to this to really just learn how to be a good CEO and how to be a good leader of a company. Because I'd been involved in leadership in a variety of different ways, but never in a company sense. So I was just, shadowing Sean and learning from him and the other founders. And yeah, I when the time came to just take the leap, I just went for it because I didn't want to be one of those people that regrets not having pursued something that they really thought was a good idea or kind of obsessed with. And yeah, just took the leap.
Absolutely. I can concur with that. Just, you never want to kind of be on the deathbed, so to speak, and have regrets. And that's kind of what, drives many of us. Was this the first idea of yours, or have you had other ideas, other sort of ventures beforehand?
No, I'm full of ideas. I have notebooks and notebooks full of ideas. I find that writing really helps suss out ideas and lends creativity. But this was the idea that I just couldn't get out of my head.
Right.
I just couldn't get out for quite a while, and as time went on, became more and more obsessed with it, rather than, letting it go or letting it die a slow and quiet death.
Yeah.
I had the opinion, just at least I would go for it, and if it fails, it fails. But you know what? At least it's out of my head, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
So Matt, so tell us a bit more about the Cauldron, the business, and what it does, just to give us a bit of a better idea.
Sure. So Dave and I started the company without any external funding, with about £30,000 between the two of us, and so immediately it needed to start making money. If not, the company couldn't continue. There wasn't like a runway or funding from elsewhere. So the easiest way to do that for us was through a bar concept, because it combined my working magic wand technology with Dave's molecular cocktails and experience in hospitality. And that's how we launched the product. Really, the vision more broadly and for the Cauldron is to create a bar, a pub in central London where magic just bursts out at different points. And you
Mm.
do that through IoT technology and interactivity. And so Dave and I, we launched a molecular cocktail making experience where it's a potions class where you brew cocktails with a working magic wand. And the cocktails aren't normal cocktails. They change color, they're on fire, they smoke, they bubble. And the interplay between the wand and the technology and the interactivity, it's kind of like an escape room meets a cocktail making class, but themed.
Right.
All right. So that's how we initially launched the concept. And that's our, our kind of our flagship is it's called the Cauldron. Our company is called the Cauldron Company, but that product is called the Cauldron. And we launched that in London. And the data then suggested a large part of our audience was American. So we then went to New York and expanded to New York and Manhattan. And so then we had Manhattan and London, and then we expanded to Dublin and to Edinburgh. And then we dug down in London, and then we expanded the brand, not just for the Cauldron, but for other concepts that utilize our tech in a variety of different ways. And we're at the stage right now where we're getting ready to scale the Cauldron. And then we also are launching new concepts to then follow a similar distribution model. But it's
Mm.
it's a B2C model. We're selling tickets directly to customers who purchase a ticket for 30, 35 pounds each, and they come in for a 2-hour experience or a meal or a time with us. And a lot of it's pre-ticketed, it's pre-booked, it's predictable revenue. And yeah, that's kind of how our core business model operates.
Nice. I mean, I think you mentioned, when was the Cauldron founded?
In 2017, and we opened our doors in 2018.
That is just 2 years ago. Where so you've opened 5
We've,
stores?
yeah, that's what we have live currently. We've opened more than that, and we've tried different concepts, but we've done something like 11 different refits of bar and restaurant spaces to launch different versions. Like New York began as a pop-up. And so then we expanded to become a full service bar and restaurant on the ground floor of the building we were operating. And then we redid, which is a different refit. And then we redid the top floor to match the bottom floor. So that's like 3 things being done in a similar space. And every once in a
Mm.
while, we go and refresh the concept thematically with new interactive cocktails, with new technology, new interactivity. So yeah, our team has done something like 11 different refits at this stage.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. So, so is you and your co-founder on this journey together? You said you had the technology or the know-how on the technology, and he had experience in the hospitality sector. How did you meet, and how did you kind of marry this? Essentially trying to find a co-founder is like a marriage. How did you guys get together and
Hmm.
agree, and you knew that this was going to be a good partnership?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say that at this stage, though, the team isn't just Dave and I. It's our employees and our team, and they're really excellent. And I think that that's what sets us apart is the strength of our team and our employees. But back to your question. So I moved from Dublin to London to set up the business and had the idea for the Cauldron already before I had moved. We had launched a Kickstarter project for it to get the idea out into the world, and then with validation through media, just moved to London to do it. And I knew I needed a co-founder because my background is not hospitality. My background is education. It's PR for technology companies. It's computer programming and design. It's not anything to do with hospitality. And I was about to try to launch a hospitality concept. So what I went looking for was a co-founder or some key team member who I could bring in who would have a skill set in molecular cocktails and hospitality. And so I moved here. I was living with family friends, and I made a list of all the highly rated cocktail bars in London and cocktail bars known for molecular cocktails as well. And then I just went to every single cocktail bar and with a stack of business cards and talked to people, talked to managers, talked to bar owners, and just worked my way through London until I found myself speaking to a manager. He's like, you know what, like this is not quite right, but London Cocktail Week is happening right over there. Why don't you go and just go in and start talking to people? It's like, great idea. So then I went into London Cocktail Week, talked to every single bartender in that place, and I met Dave. And it was to the point where I said, listen, I'm looking for someone who has a background in molecular mixology and hospitality, cocktail making experiences, this. And he like turned and he was like, is this a joke? Are you punking me? I was like, no, what do you mean? He's like, that is my skill set. That is exactly what I've been doing with my career and who I am. I was like,
Wow.
give me your email. I want to email you. Give me your email, give me your contact information. I'll call you tomorrow. And that's how it began.
Wow. That just shows like the tenacity and the grit that you had. You knew what you kind of needed to find or where your shortcomings were, and what space you were getting in. So you was very aware, and you managed to find someone searching high and low that could help and complement your skill set. That's pretty key.
Dave and I are very dissimilar people. We're really opposites from personality to skill sets. I mean, but I think that's part of what makes us a really strong team is we can do each other's job. I mean, he tries to do my job sometimes, and I try to do his job, and we scrape by when necessary, but like not really, not to the point that the other person can, and it works really well.
Yeah. So Matthew, I mean, I think you recently raised some money with Cedars, through Cedars, and could you just give us an idea of the numbers that you guys are doing as of last year, or even today, and why you went to raise funds on a platform like Cedars?
Sure. So the idea for the Cauldron began as a Kickstarter project. I had an idea, I didn't have any funding, and I put the idea out there. And I had firmly believed that the concept that fantasy belongs to a generation of people is important, right? Lots of people want magic to be real. They want fantasy to be real. It's not just me. And so from the beginning, there was this mindset of this should belong to lots of people, not just one person. And so that's why I did a Kickstarter initially. That Kickstarter didn't reach its funding goal, but it did get into international media, which told me a piece of important data, which was this is a good idea. Media want to write about this. I think up to this point, we've done something like 10 million pounds in sales and revenue across our group so far since we opened our doors. And the funding round is about scale. It's about taking a concept that has excellent reviews and people really, 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 really like, and scaling that as quickly as possible. And so we went to crowdfunding for equity because, again, Dave and I share this very firmly that this concept should belong to a generation of fantasy fans, not just two people. And so we went on to Cedars because we wanted to empower our customers to also have a stake in what we're doing. I mean, we're building one of the top 10 things to do in London. And how do you do that?
Right.
How do you suddenly come out of nowhere and build a top thing? In our mind, it's by letting everyone be part of it, is widening the umbrella, widening the tent for people to be involved. And so we went on Cedars for this initial raise, and we secured a little over £325,000 in seed funding. And so what we just did on Cedars is kind of the first stage of our seed round. The second stage, we'll put investment live on our own platform as part of the same round. So we're transacting and selling shares directly through people, directly through our own website to people, to customers, reaching them more directly. And we're in conversations with angel investors and VCs to try to lead the round. And so in total, we're hoping to raise up to £2 million in initial seed funding, and we'll see how far we get there.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, for the sheer fact that you started in 2017 and had over 9 million or 10 million in revenue, and you've successfully raised the seeders round. It's yeah, it's
I mean,
awesome.
this year, 2020 has been just the worst year. But
Of
we
course.
find that we in our mind, like, we succeeded in what we set out to do on Cedars in the year that's probably the worst year ever for hospitality in anyone's recent
Yeah,
memory. And so for
yeah,
us, that's a success. We're going to take that. We're going to move forward into 2021 and push the business forward. And the next few weeks, Dave and I are in pretty extreme planning for how we're going to
mm,
deploy that funding to make the return for our investors and for our company and for our employees, and really use that money as effectively as possible. At the same time,
yeah,
getting the second half of the round live in January.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, 2020 has been a tough year for across the net for businesses. No one could have anticipated this, and many businesses have gone under. How have you tried to navigate your way through these choppy waters of COVID-19 and business shutdown? How, have you pivoted? Had to furlough? How have you managed as a leader?
Yeah, a bit of all of the above, in a variety of different ways. I mean, we are a relatively small, scrappy company that began with no funding and had to figure it out. And so that mindset of figuring it out, and you only have the shirt on your back to figure that out, has not gone away. And so COVID came out of nowhere. And what do? You figure out what you can do. Okay, you can't do these things, but, like, what other channels of revenue are there? What other ways we activate our audience? Um, I think fundamentally the way the Cauldron as a cocktail making experience operates is largely in line with a lot of the COVID restrictions that the various governments already impose. It's seeded, it's pre-ticketed, it's limited in time. Um, what we had to do, I mean, that's our core business model.
Right.
So what we had to do was put up screens, separate people more, I mean, reduce capacity. But for the most part, while other bars, for the lack of a better word, were struggling to figure out, how will I make money if you have vertical drinking and people shoulder to shoulder? You can't have that anymore. That's not our
Mm,
problem. Our problem is,
mm,
okay, well, how do we make this work? Because what we have from a solution standpoint is an answer for a lot of hospitality operators. So that fits into
mm,
our expansion strategy. When we come out of this, restrictions are still going to be there. How do we provide bar owners in various cities around the world to come and work with us to do a pop up for the Cauldron and expand our global footprint? I mean, I
right.
think that fundamentally, though, it's been just an unbelievably difficult year. We've had to do furloughs. We've had to do layoffs at various times in various places. Um, there was one point in New York where everyone got laid off. The entire staff had to get laid off because everything just had
Mm,
to shut for
mm,
an undetermined period of time. I mean, it's been just from a leadership standpoint and an owner standpoint, like, your employees, you have a real responsibility to be able to pay their wage and to have them
right.
have fulfilled good good work experience and money on the table to feed their families, and it's just extremely stressful. And every day has just been anxiety every day, but you got to find a way through it. One of the ways that we're managing that is by just moving things around on our operational timeline. So we had always intended to put retail live, and by retail, I mean consumer technology products that work with magic wands and pair with magic wands. We had always wanted to get that live, and it was a little bit further down the road. But okay, we're going to move that up. We're going to start doing that now. And so
Right.
in the month of the pandemic, we launched an e-commerce store, which is a completely different business model, and a type of business. But we launched e-commerce with various products that we sell, and the online store has been doing really, really well for us. And so now that's a COVID, quote unquote, COVID safe
Mm,
revenue channel that will persist after COVID. And so a large part of, I mean, what we're doing the past week is reorganizing our entire office for the flow of e-commerce and the type of business we're going to be doing. Virtual conferences, virtual cocktail making classes, at-home experiences for people, just taking our intellectual property and what we do and how we do it and moving that to the customer in their home. So it's just a little bit different, but there's nothing to do except to figure it out or to just die. But like that's not really an option for us.
That's never an option.
Yeah.
Never an option. And I love that. I think the fact that you've been able to adapt and you know to navigate these waters is a testament to yours and Dave's and the whole team just trying to figure it out and make the best of this kind of situation that we've all been found ourselves in.
Yeah, I mean, our team has been really, I think, really exemplary. Everyone has had to pitch in doing jobs that they're not hired to do that just needed to be done in order for everyone to stay and work. And so, yeah, I mean, they're great. I can't speak more highly about them.
How many employees does the Cauldron have at the moment?
Let's see. There's something like 7 companies in the group. Full-time employees, I think about 15 to 20 at various stages, and people working full-time hours. I mean, the structure of our group is a little bit different. So we have our holding company and we have our subsidiaries, and the subsidiaries operate each of our bars or restaurants around the world. And then we have a different
Right.
subsidiary in the UK that's our research and development company, where it's hardware engineers, software engineers, prop and set designers, and experts in food and beverage. And so that's kind of our in-house design studio that provides the experiences in our different venues and all of the products that we sell. And so we're kind of just use ourselves for our own design studio. And so
Right.
that's kind of where the majority of my focus is on our engineering team and on our design team and building new products and innovating and patents and trademarks
Mm,
and just like novel things that are kind of our secret sauce and what makes us
mm,
different as a group.
mm. That's interesting. So, was there a reason why you decided to go down that route in terms of corporate structure?
I mean, I have more attorneys than I can shake a stick at this point. I have so many attorneys. But you have an attorney for a very specialty area or this or this. I mean, it's just yeah. I mean, we have good advice. I hope I would like to think we have good advice, but that business structure is all about limiting liability, limiting risk. If
Mm,
something terrible happens in one of your venues, God forbid, then
mm,
that or like the venue goes under, it's not performing. I mean, it dies. That entity dies, and it doesn't risk the health of the parent. Doesn't risk the
right.
health of everything. Our
Right.
patents and trademarks are held in a non-operating company because
Mm,
nothing can threaten that from
right.
from from anything happening to it. So it's all about limiting risk, I think.
I- Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's actually a good angle. I think it would be quite helpful for listeners. When I looked up the Cauldron, I was quite impressed by the amount of positive Google reviews that you had. Um, you got a lot. I think you got like nearly 500 in your New York location. You got 800 over 800 in your UK location. Um, how has your sort of marketing strategy been? What's been successful for you to acquire new customers or spread the word of mouth? What have been some successful campaigns and channels that you've used to grow?
I'd say there's probably three. There's a three-pronged approach to that. One is just having an excellent product and customers organically sharing content and talking about it to other people. That's probably the most important one is Instagram, mostly Instagram, people Instagramming their experience and then other people seeing it and wanting to know what it is and then booking it themselves. I mean, everything we design from a design standpoint is designed to fit in an Instagram square. So when we're making decisions around what goes where on placement, take out your phone and you say, what does this image look like? What does this video look like? So our
Wow.
customers, though, having a superior product and letting making it easy for customers to share. The second thing is press and media. So, uh, I used to work before this in PR for technology companies. And so understanding press, understanding journalists, understanding how to pitch to journalists, understanding what makes a story newsworthy and delivering
Mm,
that on a silver platter to a journalist in a way that they write about that can go viral. Um,
mm,
Press have written about us a lot, like a lot, a lot.
mm,
So and that doesn't always happen. So that's fortunate. And then the last one is digital advertising, is having a strong digital strategy, especially around digital ads, and understanding how that ecosystem works and iterating on that to have strong performance there.
did your digital strategy come at the beginning? Was you immediately spending money on in that space, or did that just evolve and mature over time? And how if you don't mind me saying, what are the most successful channels, and what do you expect for them? Does it cost for you to acquire a customer, if you know that sort of that number?
Yeah. Well, initially it was press because my background was in press. I know how to work with media. So that initially was how it got going.
Sorry. So, how did you tap into that? Could you share like a rough sort of idea how you think you can approach PR to kind of to get that publicity?
Sure. So really strategically, doing immediate analysis first, understanding which press are writing about which topics. And so you can use a free version of that is like Google News. You can see, if your topic is speedboats, who's writing about speedboats and who has recently written about that, and making
Mm,
a really targeted media list. So I use a piece of software called Meltwater, which is a
mm,
media monitoring software that you put in any query or combination of search terms, and it provides you with just like a kick-ass list of
mm,
the outlet, the article, the journalist, and then from there, looking up the journalist's contact information, starting to build relationships with them. Initially, when we launched the Cauldron as a Kickstarter, a friend of mine did the PR. A friend of mine who was working in PR with me did the PR for us. And I wrote a piece of software, traded them a piece of software that I wrote for him doing my PR. And like he has one of the best networks I've ever met. And that was cultivated through just years and years and years of working with journalists. And so when I went to go do it by myself, it was approaching those journalists that had already written about us or a competitor
mm,
or something similar and getting an exclusive. And
mm,
I mean, it's a press release. It's understanding the cadence of an email, how short
mm,
or long an email should be, what the email should contain. But it's really like a personal relationship. Like my
mm,
friend had a personal relationship with this journalist, and now over years, I have personal relationships with those journalists. And so it's cultivating those things, not just when you need something from someone, but just like it's a network. You check in, you see how they're doing, you go out to drink, you for drinks, you kind of just you cultivate that. But
cultivate. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, for me, it was using powerful media monitoring software and understanding how to pitch well.
Right.
But then the rest of the media approach, I mean, customers sharing content that just happened by itself because
Mm,
I guess what we designed and what we made was something that people really liked, but it wasn't. I don't know that how you would make that happen if your product wasn't really good. I have no idea. For me, it's just what is the product that I would want.
mm,
What is exciting for me, and that comes from the vision of the company, the vision of what it is that we make, and our philosophy of making magic real with science, technology, and design.
mm,
The digital ad stuff that came later. We had been operating for a while, and I was approached by Google because they have a digital advertiser accelerator program that they have like a handful of companies every quarter. Basically, they approach companies that they've heard of or that they think would have an impact with ads, and then they give you a consultant. They give you two consultants that optimize your ad campaigns. I mean, it's like white glove. It's wonderful,
white glove
and
service.
they get you hooked on Google Ads. And you know what? It's great. It
It works.
really, really, really works. Like the return that we get on ads is tremendous.
Wow.
And it's immediately measurable. I put
Mm,
in 10 pounds and I get out pops 300 pounds on the other end.
wow.
You can
Wow.
see that and you can track it. And so it's undeniable that it's effective. But that only happened after about a year of us operating, a year and a half of us operating, and now it's one of the more important parts of our strategy.
Wow, wow, that is awesome. I love the fact that you naturally Google reached out to you, and I've dabbled with Google Ads a few times and Facebook Ads, and when you don't know what you're doing, it feels like a black hole.
Yeah, it does.
But
It
but
absolutely does. I mean, even now, like they spent months building my capacity to do it, and I know enough to be able to hire someone and oversee what they do without
mm,
actually going and adjusting things myself. Because I mean,
mm,
it's an entire career. People make an entire career on it. It's 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 more about the same thing with our engineering team. I'm not an expert engineer. I'm not even. I'm just a fake engineer. I'm just a maker. But I know enough of how to communicate with my engineering team and with our ads team to be able to get what I need and what I want and the desired result, which is what is really important there.
right, right. Especially when in terms of return on investment, as you said, if I'm putting in three, I want to get out, 10, 20. And if you know your demographic, then it's, who are you targeting? Let's double down on females between 25 and 35.
Yeah, well, it helps
Uh,
inform like a global strategy. So from what I'm trying to do with the Cauldron is get us ready for global expansion. And so we have a digital toolkit, we have an operating kit, we have a PR kit, just like modes of methods of operating that I can just insert new city name and I can get those same campaigns live in those cities. And it's just from my standpoint, thinking about it from a scalability standpoint, building the company early on to scale and thinking about all of those things initially because I know that's where I want to go with it.
mm, mm, mm. That's fantastic. And in terms of your return on investment, what has been something that you think has been a great investment for you? If it's the people, your team, if it's the product, if it's marketing, what have been some of the couple of things that you think has been a really good return on investment?
I mean, I would probably say investing in people. I think it's very difficult to find um, people who are really good and who buy into vision and want to be part of a team like this. Like what we're doing is not ordinary, and from
Mm,
from a mission and vision standpoint. And I think that investing in people is probably the biggest thing. I mean, we've just had our first few patents come through from a technology standpoint for our magic wand technology, which I'm really excited about. And
congratulations.
thanks. I've always wanted to have a patent, though. Always wanted to be an inventor, and now we've got several of them. It's really exciting, and for me, my focus has always been and continues to be on just building a great product and building something that I would like. And it just
Mm,
happens that other people also want that thing.
mm, mm.
So
That's great. That's great. I think it's so important to cultivate your team and show recognition as well, especially in a year like this where you're faced with adversity, you're faced with difficult times and challenges, and for your team to huddle around you and pull together.
I mean, I think my team is looking forward to a Christmas break. I've really like they
I'm
they
sure.
definitely are. But we recently launched a new experience. It's a magic wand building interactive experience where you construct and design your own magic wand and put it together in a small group experience with a wand maker. And we just like that came from retail. And we kind of just popped that idea out of what was going on with COVID. It's a COVID safe, contactless
Mm,
way of doing stuff. And my team they just made it happen
mm,
in a span of 2 months, which is really really and really extraordinary. And we had the call like our team meeting the week after it
mm.
launched, and there were a bunch of people there. They had a great time. The feedback was excellent. I mean, really, 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 really excited people. When COVID is less of a thing, it's going to be insanely popular. Like I'm very, very excited. And we kind of like we had our next meeting and it was just like we were talking about like, oh, giving feedback on the weekend, and then someone asked a question and went to the next thing. I was like, no, guys, come back. Like, everyone give yourself a round of applause. Like, you guys did a great job. Like, this is really, really good. Well done.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so easy that the pace of things moves so fast that I feel like you really need to just celebrate small wins.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that wasn't even a small win. That was a huge win, but like stop and celebrate. And I wish we could go out for drinks together, but like in the springtime.
Digital drinks we can have. Yeah. um, Matthew, I mean, what have been some of the? I mean, I don't know if you said earlier on that you're a man of ideas. What have been some? I can imagine that your ideas will come from reading, watching videos, etc. What has been some of the perhaps inspirational books or sources of inspiration that you've kind of drawn from to kind of that you feel has played a large part in how you think and how you operate today?
So I began my career as a teacher, as a literacy and reading teacher for high school students who are struggling with reading. And for me, like as a learner, as a developing reader myself, it was always fantasy that engaged me and got me excited. And it was the same thing with my students. I like went back to fantasy to inspire and spark a love of learning and a love of reading. It's so easy with fantasy because it has such good messages for so many different types of people.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, for me, like the fantasy genre as a whole, there are like some more recently. There's a series called the Peter Grant series,
Mm.
commonly known as The Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich,
Mm.
and it takes place in modern day London, and that the concept is that magic is a branch of Newtonian science, and that it's like the hidden branch of Newtonian science, and you can learn magic. It's kind of like riffing on magic in science.
Right.
And I think that is kind of the ethos of what we're making, is that magic is just science that you don't yet understand.
Right.
Arthur C. Clarke quote,
Right.
right? So yeah, it's always been fantasy literature for me. It's always been reading. And what I had noticed in just being a voracious reader, and then also reading a lot of media and media monitoring software, is you can what I was noticing was there's all these people around the world, all of these makers, all of these engineers, all of these creatives that are trying their best to make some small aspect of magic and fantasy
Mm.
real in their own way with their own skill set. And because I was looking at media very, very broadly
Mm.
and reading literally anything that's published on specific topics all over the world,
Mm.
you're able to see what people are doing. What people are doing is they're trying to make magic real.
Mm.
And so, from my standpoint, if I just find a way to unify those things around a concept, then it hits it hits a note of nostalgia with a lot of people.
Mm.
For me, that was inventing a magic wand that worked.
Mm.
Once you invented a magic wand that worked, you're like, okay,
That was it.
now what can I? This is a business. Like this is a business. This is good. I can only get it to do on off, blink on, blink off, blink on, blink. But like you know what? It works. And so where do I go from here? But I love reading. I love learning. I love education. And I think it's really important. And implicitly, what we're doing with the Cauldron is encouraging hands-on learning with STEM.
Mm.
Um, STEM and literature and creativity. It's all about hands-on learning, whether people realize it or not.
Mm.
It's learning,
Mm.
and I think a hallmark of learning is that if you don't realize you're learning and you're having fun, that's the best type of learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I could see the enthusiasm. I love it. So Matthew, just to wrap this up, you've had some great success in the last couple of years, and congratulations. What advice would you give other entrepreneurs on their journey at the moment, if they are new entrepreneurs or existing? What would you say if you used to pass on to your Matthew Cortland 5 years ago or 3 years ago?
I'd probably say the same thing my old boss said to me when starting a company was make sure you get the financial accounting and documentation correct. So for example, all of your receipts need to be recorded and documented in a specific way. Don't like get the receipt, take a picture of it, use a piece of software, sign up for a SaaS service. We use Receipt Bank. Just document it along the way. And early on, I was too busy, didn't really have time to do that. And it became an immediate and compounding problem. So I would say make sure you read more about financial literacy and what you need to be doing from a documentation standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint, and make sure you do those things. Because if not, you're going to have to go back and do all that, and it's going to be much harder months later than it is immediately. So I recommend that people do that. And really any small problem. So when your company is small, it's easy to allow like minor annoyances in processes. Just, you know what, I'll just deal with it. I'll just deal with it. But the problem really exists when you take that one thing and then you multiply it by 10. So, we now have 7 subsidiaries, I think 9 operating companies or something like that. So any small problem that was a small problem becomes a huge problem if you don't immediately fix the inefficiency. So I just get the process working basically so that you are able to scale and you don't have unforeseen problems.
All right. Thanks, Matthew. You heard it.
It's like the most boring advice ever, but practically speaking, it really will make your life better.
That's it. And nobody likes life admin, business admin. So it sounds like don't kick the can down the road. Pick it up. Well, Matthew, thank you very much for your time. It has been awesome. And I advise everyone to check out the Cauldron if you haven't already. Are you open at the moment? I guess no.
We're in London. We're in tier 4 lockdown, which in a 3-tier system. But no, we're closed at the moment. So, but we'll be open again. We're in London, Edinburgh, New York, and in London we opened up the Wizard Exploratorium, which is the magic wand building experience. So that's right in Soho, in the heart of Soho. I'd recommend come checking that out.
Cool. Catch me there as well.
Yeah, it'll be good to meet in person when this is all over.
Definitely. I'm there with a magic wand.
Thanks.
See ya. Hey, everyone. Just a final note for me to say thank you for listening this far. I hope you enjoyed the story with Matthew and his magical path to 7 figures in 2 years. Goodness, that is very impressive. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do that right now. Like us, leave us a review, show us your support. That'd be great. If you're on Instagram, find us at It's Just Business HQ and follow us there, like us there. And until then, we'll see you next time.